What is up, y'all? And welcome back. Welcome back to the first episode after a long pause of Allegedly. And I'm your host, Gina G. First of all, I want to thank you all for the patience for taking this time because I know it was a very long time that I did take a break. But today I am coming back, but I also want to give you some wrap-ups of the cases that I was discovering and talking about during the time I was running the show. Granted, was on my other profile, right? Anyways, so some stories make the headlines and others are buried in the island breeze. From the heart of the bochinche and in the center of Texas, I'm Gina G. And this is Allegedly. Now, welcome back, my friends. Like I said before, it's been a long time since I've been on here and you've heard my voice. And today's episode is just not another story. It's the reason I had to stop the show for a while, because sometimes when you tell stories about tragedy and loss, you forget how heavy they can be until one breaks you open. And for me, it was the story of Madeline Soto. Madeline was a bright, creative girl from Kissimmee, Florida. She loved music, journaling, and art. And in February 2024, she vanished on her way to school. Her mother's boyfriend, Stefan Stearns, claimed he had dropped her off. However, she never made it to class. Surveillance footage later showed him discarding her belongings in a nearby dumpster, and she was found days later, strangled to death in a wooded area near St. Cloud. She was 13. Now, this young lady, as we already know, she went through a lot with him. A lot of things that were found on his personal cell phone that he attempted to delete were found to prove exactly that she had been dealing with this for a very long time. Please understand and know that this information I have received from all public forums, from TikTok, Facebook, also Fox News, amongst others. And to say the least, that this story really touched me. As a person who has been through this when younger, it's a very thing that is very hard for me to absorb. And I became obsessed with this story. I was watching CNN News, The Court, everything. I went as far as actually thinking about being there. I was actually going to return to Florida, which I vowed never to return, just for this very reason. To be there, to see them. And to see Steven Stern in the face. Thankfully, my fiance stopped me from that one. Because then I would have ended up in jail and he would have had to be able to... Anyway. As a mother, I couldn't process it. This wasn't just another case. It was a kind that makes you stop recording. I needed to separate myself from the story. I needed to move away from the story. I needed to really disconnect. But yet, and even in silence, I kept thinking about her. And the other kids whose stories go unheard. Fast forward to 2025, Stefan Stearns pleaded no contest to first-degree murder and guilty to 20 counts of sexual abuse. He received 21 life sentences without parole. Justice? Maybe. But closure? That's another story. Sorry, I get emotional still with this. That case taught me something about true crime. These stories change us, and that's why this episode marks a new beginning, because Allegedly is back. And we're telling the stories that won't let us sleep, or at least won't let me sleep. Now, before we move on, let's talk the headlines. As we already know, again, I am wrapping up all the cases that I was talking about during the time that I was active 18 months ago. And as we already know, the P. Diddy case, we all know the results, and we were extremely disappointed. Now, this is a story of fame, fear, and fallout. Federal raids, lawsuits, survivors speaking their cases after decades. Now, however, there is David, D4VID, I guess that's how he spells his name, a young artist which is facing his own reckoning. When fame moves faster than morality, truth always catches up. I will be diving deep on this case of David. Right now, it is currently an active investigation, and no suspects have been apprehended at this time. All of these stories and Diddy, David, Madeline remind us that power without empathy becomes a weapon. And sometimes the people we trust are the monsters we warn our other children about. Next week on Allegedly, or in the next episode of Allegedly, we will travel to Vieques, Puerto Rico for the story of Yareli Gonzalez, a murder that still haunts the island. And we will also explore Netflix Monster, the story of Ed Gein. As we already know, the next episode will be about, well, we don't know. They change that all the time. They're saying this, that, whatever. But we'll talk about it. And how real life horror becomes a myth. And Ed Gein most certainly did become a myth. But we all know the truth. Now, this episode of Netflix, Ed Gein's story, we will talk about it in depth about it because there was a lot of inaccuracies, but we will talk about it. Please know that all details and all information that I report on and talk about in this podcast is public record. All you have to do is Google. But I got all of my information from either CNN, Fox News, Facebook, TikTok, amongst the exhaustive run of the CNN ticker across my computer and phone. Now, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the patience and thank you for returning to follow me again. And I do, once again, I understand that I have been far out for a little while and I appreciate you and your patience. And thank you for tuning into the return of Allegedly. Listen to us on YouTube. And coming soon, it will be YouTube. Well, no, YouTube is already. But Spotify, iTunes, and from the heart of the Borinquen and from the center of Texas, this is Gina G reporting to you from here. And reminding you that some stories will always make you say, allegedly. May you all have the day you deserve, especially you, Steven Cerns, and everybody else. Thanks for watching.